From The Onion and Onion Public Radio, I'm Leslie Price, and this is The Topical. I've always had a lot of energy in the morning, so what do you say we crank out a few pieces of news right from the get-go, eh? Here are today's top stories. President Trump is continuing to advocate for the blood sacrifice of children in the town square as a potential remedy to the coronavirus. But today, senior health officials are raising concerns with that recommendation, citing insufficient research into the overall effectiveness and potential side effects associated with slitting the throat of a child as an offering. And in Olympic news, representatives from all 206 countries, one set to participate in the now-delayed 2020 Summer Games, are asking for an extra year's worth of financial relief for the respective doping programs. In a joint statement, the country's representatives said their doping programs were only funded through mid-August of 2020 and implored the International Olympic Committee to keep their doping operations afloat so they could remain competitive when the Games officially kick off in 2021. Okay, well now I'm exhausted. Just give me a few minutes and we'll have more after the break. Oh, ow, Jesus Christ. The CDC is issuing updated guidelines today for Americans going out in public during the coronavirus pandemic. Here with the details is OPR infectious disease correspondent Jenna Resnick. Hello, Jenna.
Hi, Leslie.
So earlier this month, the Trump administration issued a blanket statement calling for all citizens to wear fabric masks if they leave their homes to work or run errands. But today they're pumping the brakes on that recommendation. What changed?
In a partial reversal from that stance, health officials have announced that if you are a hottie or a stud, you should not be hiding that pretty little face behind a mask. Here's CDC spokesperson Caroline Merle talking to reporters at a press conference this morning.
Our findings suggest that if you have blemish-free skin and straight, pearly white teeth, then you should not be covering your face in public. We have found that the risks to the public's mental health far outweigh any benefit that comes from concealing these strong jawlines and perfect pouty lips behind a mask. Right now, we are urging Americans to remain calm, which will not be possible if we lose access to the radiant smiles of the hottest among us.
So basically, health officials are saying if you got it, flaunt it.
Correct.
And what does this mean for the average American?
Well, for most people, it means business as usual. The new guidelines only apply to 8s and above, which only make up roughly 2% of adults, the sexiest of the sexy.
And everyone else?
According to experts, butterfaces of both sexes should definitely continue covering up.
Yeah.
Here's Merle again.
Uggos and trolls need not apply. If you have a snaggletooth or a lazy eye or some fucked up acne, it's imperative you avoid contact with others, especially vulnerable hunks and babes. If you must leave the house to go to the grocery store, wear a bandana or a pillowcase. Save the surgical masks for the unattractive doctors and nurses. And this is especially true for two-baggers.
Sorry, Jenna, can you clarify for us non-scientists, what's a two-bagger?
That's a person so hideous that before you can have sex with them, you need to put a bag over their head and another bag over your own head just in case theirs falls off. Hence, two-bagger. These are people the government has deemed critically ugly with a high risk of grossing out those they come in contact with.
I see, but back to the hotties. Is there anything beefcakes and knockouts should be doing to reduce the spread of coronavirus?
According to the CDC website, if you're a hard-body Adonis or a dime piece with an ass too thick to quit, your job right now is just to continue gracing us with that rockin' bod. Despite the nationwide shelter-in-place order, task force officials are encouraging the nation's beautiful people to run outside in skimpy outfits and show off their six-pack abs, even if it's just around the block.
Well, they're welcome to take a walk around my block anytime.
All right, Leslie.
Auga.
Okay.
Thump, 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 thump.
Yep.
Now, Jenna, I think this is the question on everyone's mind. What about me? Should I be wearing a face mask?
Leslie, if you have to ask, then the answer is yes, you do.
Ouch. Well, thank you for the reports and your unflinching honesty.
You're welcome. Now stay safe and cover up that mug.
Will do. That's OPR's Jenna Resnick. Now that social distancing is in full effect across most of the United States, millions of Americans are suddenly faced with daily schedules of nowhere to go and nothing to do. Without the hustle and bustle of everyday life to occupy their focus, a new poll found that many Americans are finding themselves spending more time contemplating what John Goodman's nude body looks like. Joining us to talk more about today's unsettling findings is OPR's Marcy Hammond. Hello, Marcy.
Thanks for having me, Leslie.
Marcy, this poll seems to make the argument that this pandemic is really forcing people to confront the mystery of what John Goodman's stout 6'2" frame looks like completely unclothed.
It really is. The poll surveyed 1,000 Americans and found that a stunning 83% of participants said that without the constant demands of normal life preoccupying their minds, they've found their thoughts constantly drifting to bigger questions like what happens when a naked John Goodman bends down to pick something up? And how has the actor's dramatic weight loss over the last few years changed the curves and grooves of his body? I spoke to one of the poll participants, Raymond Benz, about it.
Before, John Goodman's scrotum simply wasn't something I thought about. But now that I'm more mentally freed up, every day I wake up and go to bed wondering if John Goodman's penis is bent a little to the left or the right or perfectly hung straight down. I wonder how far up his pubic hairs go on his stomach and whether or not his nipples and breasts are chubby enough to squeeze a little or put in my mouth. I just have all these unanswered questions suddenly racing through my head and no images of a sweaty, towering, naked John Goodman to provide answers.
Do you think that people have always wondered about these larger questions, like the length of John Goodman's shaft, but just buried them away?
I spoke with a lot of men and women from the poll, and they all said that this has made them realize that they were most likely insatiably lustful for John Goodman all along, but maybe just didn't want to take the time working through those complex natural desires for the 67-year-old's flesh. Here's another participant from the poll.
Obviously, I see now that the circumference of John Goodman's anus was always in my mind, because now that I've got nothing to do but let my thoughts roam free, all I can think about is if John Goodman's asshole is wide enough to put my coffee maker inside it.
Now, did the poll find that folks were already wondering what's going on between John Goodman's legs before the coronavirus hit?
Oh, very much so. The poll found that there were about 13% of Americans who said they didn't need a pandemic to make them wonder whether or not the tip of John Goodman's penis is pierced, or if he has two nice warm belly flaps you could fit your head under.
And how are people finding ways to deal with the sudden rush of these bigger questions about Goodman's body?
Well, most said they're finding relief by watching old movies and TV shows where John Goodman is partially naked, especially the scene in King Ralph where he's bathing in a bubble bath wearing a crown. But the poll found that sometimes those old shows provide a false sense of hope since they simply don't go far enough in teasing out John Goodman's cum gutters or clearly use butt doubles when you think you're looking at a full shot of Goodman's powerful ass.
And there's no known full-body nudes of John out there, right?
Correct, but according to the poll, that hasn't stopped millions of Americans from risking computer viruses or even legal action to search the seedier parts of the internet to see if anyone's hacked Goodman's iPhone for potential nudes he might have stored.
Yeah, I have a feeling John's more of an old-school VHS sex tape kind of guy anyway.
Exactly.
I guess the issue, at least for me, is that these bigger questions are pretty unanswerable, right? I mean, I can hope and pray and bargain all I want for answers on whether or not John Goodman's circumcised, but I might just never get to see exactly what he's working with under those big and tall jeans. It's frustrating.
Right, but for some, they're just content and even finding peace filling in the blanks themselves. Here's Raymond again.
For me, I choose to believe that John's hind legs are the tightest and most elegant part of his body, and that his ass is a little flat at the bottom but curved on the top, with a crack that goes a little higher and wider than you'd think. What gets me through all this is thinking that maybe one day we'll know exactly what a naked John Goodman looks like, and we'll finally get a little closer to seeing what it would be like for him to sit on all our faces.
Wow, I love that perspective. Maybe I needed to hear that.
Sometimes all you need is to believe that one day John Goodman will take off all his clothes and let us watch.
Thanks, Marcy. That's OPR's Marcy Hammond. As the coronavirus pandemic rages on and people are forced to stay home and practice social distancing, we're also changing the way we connect with one another. OPR's Jenna Resnick joins me now with a little more on how this could all be for the better. Hello, Jenna.
Hi, Leslie.
Now, am I to believe that something good can come out of this global crisis?
Don't get your hopes up there, but for the sake of this segment, absolutely. While people are required to stay at home as much as possible, Americans are making more of an effort to stay connected with loved ones and colleagues through shitty video conferencing software that just won't fucking work.
Hi, Mom.
That's Chicago resident Katie Hughes using Skype to call her mom Cheryl in Tacoma, Washington. She used to talk to her mom on the phone a couple of times a month. Now Katie says they've been trying to talk several times a day.
Hello? Are you there, Katie? Hello, Mom? Hello? I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We do
this about 6 or 7 times a day, saying hi and then trying to fix the audio or video issue until we give up. It's been kind of nice spending time together and in the process hearing snippets about each other's lives. I definitely feel like we've become a lot closer.
And others are using apps like Zoom and FaceTime to have virtual meetings while they work from home. This is Calvin Fernandez, who works at a digital marketing company.
My team gets together every day on Zoom, and just like we would in the office, we discuss projects and chat about our lives. At least, I think that's what's happening. I can barely understand a word anyone says, but we keep trying until eventually we get frustrated and just give up. I think everyone appreciates it, though. Oh, meeting starting. Hey, guys.
Guys, can you hear me?
I can see you. Can you see me?
Guys, Kelly, you're frozen. Try hanging up and calling back.
I'm frozen again.
Todd, turn off your fucking mic if you're gonna eat. It's fucking gross, man.
And if you're wondering if Katie and her mom ever solved their connection problem, well, they eventually did and got to enjoy some important mother-daughter bonding time.
So, what's new with you?
Nothing. You?
Nothing.
Well, it's good to see people reaching out to one another. I certainly appreciate the video chats I have with my long-distance girlfriend, Shauna, even if the connection makes her sound like an Eastern European robot sometimes and she prefers to cyber with the lights off.
Ew. I mean, I'm happy for you, Leslie.
Oh, Jenna, are you there? Sorry, I think we have a bad connection.
Okay, then.
Yeah, your face is all fucked up and I can barely understand what you're saying.
All right.
We might have to end the segment.
Leslie, I'm sitting right across from you.
Oh, damn, looks like we lost Jenna. Too bad. Well, we'll be back in a moment. That might have been all the news you can handle for one day, but that's not going to stop me from telling you even more. Here's what else you need to know today. In Vatican City, Pope Francis is finally close to finishing the Bible. Those close to His Holiness say he's been using his newfound free time amid shelter-in-place orders to catch up on some reading. And though he admittedly had a hard time, quote, getting through some of the boring middle chapters, Pope Francis reportedly hasn't been able to put the good book down since getting to the book of Revelation. And a disturbing new study out of Stanford University today has found that the majority of American fifth graders are only absorbing targeted advertisements at a first-grade level. Of the 10,000 children that were studied, more than 75% of them scrolled right past products placed under their social media feeds, with many not even clicking or hovering over an ad once. Experts are suggesting that if parents are worried their child may be lagging behind, they should sit down and show them how to interact with simple, digestible advertisements for a few hours each night. And finally, a prominent movement seems to be gaining some traction today. Members call themselves Fat Earthers, and they believe, contrary to scientific evidence, that planet Earth is nearly 2.5 quintillion pounds overweight. Frankly, I think it's a little ridiculous, and that Mother Earth is beautiful just the way she is. And that's the Topical for today. I'm Leslie Price. Gonna be honest, I'm getting pretty bored around here all by myself.
Leslie, I'm still sitting right here.
With nothing to do and no one to talk to.
Can you not see me?
So if you'd like to chat or maybe play a game online together, let me know in the reviews on Apple Podcast. It could be fun. Anyway, we'll see you tomorrow. The news doesn't stop just because this YouTube video has. For even more on all the worst things happening in the world right now, listen and subscribe to The Topical on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, you insatiable news freaks.